all of you, sort of. I'm just curious as to how much market research did you really do to figure out how many customers you were maybe hoping to reach? I know it's probably a little bit different for all of you. And I know sometimes, like, at least what I'm working on right now, it's hard and it's a really niche, I guess, apparel business. So it's kind of hard trying to figure out how many customers I could hope to reach. So I'm wondering how you kind of did that research.
Can you repeat the question for the live stream?
We don't have a, we
Question
don't,
had
oh,
to do
okay.
with if a person is launching a new business, how many customers you need to reach, how do you actually implement market research that effectively allows you to understand what the customer needs, what the customer wants, what the customer will buy, particularly in a situation where you're launching, as our questioner is, a niche business in the fashion industry?
You know, I just finished a project with a client, and they were missing a large group of their population. And so our market research consisted of a number of surveys, focus groups, competitive analysis, another group of surveys. We did a lot of exhaustive surveys because they have a large population. It is a school, and they were missing a number of opportunities to engage. So our market research was really, really survey driven. So it just depends, and that was in that particular situation. It just really depends on what you need to look at. We needed to hear from potential users of the service to understand, why they didn't use it and, what their needs were. So we constructed a survey tool, came back, constructed another survey tool, did some focus group studies, and even involved the faculty at that particular point to get their input as well. So it was exhaustive, but it was very telling. Yeah.
So for us, one of the things that we did was knowing our competition, which is what I think is a big part of marketing for us, is to know what you're up against, who else is in that scenario, cost points, what they do and who they're targeting, and how they do that was something that we looked into a lot. Was a big part for us.
Ours is sort of trial and error, if I'm being completely honest. I knew that there was a market for calligraphy and lettering because the wedding industry it's very trendy with the wedding industry right now. In terms of our Etsy listings, one thing that we did that I found to be incredibly helpful is tagging our listings with tags that were highly relevant on Etsy. So what I did is I basically went into the search box when I was on the Etsy website, etsy.com, and I typed in hand, and I figured out what were the most popular search terms that were coming up. And I figured, well, I'll tag my listings with the top search terms and see if I can get any kind of traction with that. And if that's not working, then I'll go back to the drawing board and I'll do it again. That kind of tagging is called search engine optimization, SEO, and that's really a big part of how I've been successful doing business within the Etsy platform.
I love the variety that we're hearing. I just want to make a comment about the trial and error. So nowadays, how many of you are familiar with lean startup and lean techniques? It's all the rage. It's this notion that you operate lean by using as little money as possible to create the equivalent of a prototype for your business, and that you then put it into the hands of customers, you see how they respond, and you adapt it on the fly so that you fail fast and frequently, but always with a mind to pivoting, which they mean in the basketball sense of the word. You're planted on the court with one foot unable to move, so you can only move incrementally and change your direction, but your origin is set. And it is trial and error in one way, but in another way it's not. You know where you are, you know what you want to accomplish, you're putting it into the hands of people to see how they respond and you react. And that actually is what a lot of people say is the best way to do market research nowadays. So lean startup techniques, look it up. And sort of this notion of, well, I think it was this notion of what do successful entrepreneurs do? And there's a subset of them who do very, very structured things, and there's a subset who simply go into the market and figure out what makes people respond. The worst thing you can do in market research is just do market research. You got to actually do something to launch to customers.
Yeah.
was wondering how much consideration you put into a legal structure, whether you should incorporate, form an LLC, and in a related question, how much thought was put into insurance, like errors and omissions or
You guys
any
are
other
probably best
any
for that.
other mechanisms to protect you?
No. You know, being a sole proprietor, I work for myself, and I have a sole prop. So I operate with a sole prop. I've done a DBA and do my business license and the whole thing, and I've been okay with that. I have needed to use general liability insurance when I'm doing certain types of events, that kind of thing, and you can get that easily and get it for certain periods of time, so you don't have to carry it. But I don't sell a product or service, so my situation is probably a little bit different from the ladies, because you have customers, you have students coming in and out, so her situations, their situations are probably a little bit different. So maybe you guys,
Sure,
yeah.
So we started as an S corporation at the time, and that was what we thought and had looked into and researched and understood was the best way for us in terms of taxes and for that model that we started with. Now, 4 years after starting, we're looking at actually changing the type of corporation because of where we are in terms of revenue and things like that. So as far as I know, that's totally possible, and you can always do that as your business changes.
Yeah.
In terms of insurance, given that we work with kids from 5 years old through college, and we staff our instructors part-time, that's obviously a big thing for us. So both in terms of protecting students, ourselves, as well as instructors, and again, ourselves. So I would definitely make sure you do the research there properly.
I am also a sole proprietor. I have a DBA. We're planning this year into transitioning the business into an LLC. I think it's going to become more important for us the more money we make, because as I understand it, we want to be separating the assets, once you're making a certain amount of money. In terms of insurance, I have structured into every proposal, every project agreement on my site terms, my Etsy store terms, my policy for returns and exchanges, and if there are errors. I don't have any specific insurance. I haven't found it to be necessary for the type of work I'm doing. Everything is sort of smaller, lots of small orders. And in my business, it's a reviews-based business. I'm not sure if any of you have experienced that, but I want to do whatever is going to make it right with my customers. I want it to be perfect, and I haven't felt the need to necessarily insure myself against the client. I will say, I insure every single package that gets sent through the mail. If you are doing that, you must do that because the USPS is my personal enemy. So you definitely want to make sure you're insuring everything that goes through the mail.
What other questions?
I was wondering if any of you belong to EO, and if you do, what your thoughts are about it.
I do not, actually. I
I don't
no.
either. I'm sorry. I don't have an answer for you either.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
She asked if any of the panelists belonged to what's called the Entrepreneur Organization, EO, and if they had thoughts on it, and their answer was no. You heard that part? No and no and no. EO was originally, I think, YEO. It was for people who achieved a certain level of revenue and a certain level of profit before 40. And the people who were a part of YEO liked it so much that they continued it after they got 40, and they decided out of a sense of decorum to drop the Y, because they wanted to admit that MEO, Middle-Aged Entrepreneurs Organization, didn't sound nearly as good. I've heard very, very good things from many of the people who come into my classrooms who are attached to EO. One of the challenging things for entrepreneurs typically as their businesses grow is it gets lonely. It's lonely at the top. It's good to be king or queen, but it's still lonely. You don't necessarily have people who are dealing with the same sorts of decisions with the same responsibilities, and some of those decisions come with such emotional heft. You know, you're dealing with other people's lives, their livelihoods, these sorts of things. And I joke that I was a misanthrope when I became a professor. I didn't really like people. I thought I'm not going to I'll become a professor. I'll never have to deal with people. I don't know what I was thinking. You know, I was young and stupid. All I do is deal with people all of the time. But one of the things that teaching has done is it's made me a better person, because I hear all of these stories and I realize everybody's really just trying to do their best. And entrepreneurs agonize over these very, very, very challenging decisions. And it's amazing for them, therefore, to be able to find that support group. And so EO is one of them. There's abundant resources for women entrepreneurs specifically. I believe, for example, on the East Coast, Harvard Business School took a step in creating what are called Women's Founders Forums, groups where founders would come together and travel through that experience together. Very different businesses, but very similar topics. Really sort of a support group, but one that's very business focused and results focused. So I actually brought a list of a lot of resources for those of you who want to ask afterwards. And some of those resources are these sorts of things which bring these people together to share. And I'm sure as you grow your businesses, you are going to know EO much, much more than you do today. Do we really want to stop the questions, or do we want to leave the floor open for a couple more?
Well, we have one last burning one right now.
Okay.
It's sort of a buzzword now, but work-life balance. And so Julie, you touched on, you know, being very emotionally invested in your work, and so how do you, I guess, make sure that you're taking that oxygen mask and putting it on yourself first in order to be able to take care of your business?
You know, I just adopted this policy for myself that I can take a sick day. You know, you're used to taking sick days when you work for somebody else. When I'm tired and burned out, you know, I stop. I truly do. I have to stop. Now, I don't have, I think somebody said you said young children. I don't have young children at home anymore. I do have a dog who acts like a little baby though, but I don't have young children. So, but I have to stop. You have to still maintain that balance, or you, like you said, you can't give to the next client or customer. So I find myself needing to take those breaks. I exercise regularly. I try to eat pretty well, you know, healthfully, and so you just have to, that's my sense of balance. And you have to tell people when you can't do something for them, it's just no. You know, you have to turn the nose on, if you will.
I think I'm trying to find my balance right now, so I don't know if I've achieved that.
You need this one?
Or sure. I think one of the things that's helped me is finding something that lets you just get into it. So whether it's running or going to the gym or yoga, having somewhere or something that you can do that you have balance for that point in time when you're doing it has been really helpful. And I'm still working on finding that balance, I think, too.
Those are good suggestions for me because I have not yet learned how to implement those things. Work-life balance is the unicorn for me. I don't know. I haven't found it yet. I would say it's so important to be in control of your life. And that means making the conscious decision that these are the hours I'm going to work. These are the hours I'm not going to work. I don't have to be a slave to my devices. I just don't. It's difficult for me because I operate an online business. So every piece of correspondence I receive is business, is money, is a potential client. But I think you have to be conscious. You have to be very conscious about it and be able to learn to say no, be able to make the time for yourself to exercise, to eat right, to spend time with your family and friends.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really hard. It's hard.
I joke that my autobiography is going to be called The Myth of Work-Life Balance, but anyway, that's just me. I want to bring it back here to wrap up the Q&A session. I want to give each of you a chance to give sort of a final thought to those who are assembled before we break for more networking, as I understand it. What final thought or pearls of wisdom or advice do you have for all the folks who are in the audience?
You know, I would say if you're considering starting a business, do it. Don't give it a whole lot of thought. I do believe that you do need to have some roadmap for yourself, But so many women seem tentative or scared, or they're hesitant because we've gotten to this place where we think certain things need to look a certain way, and there's a certain model that needs to shape up, and it's just not true. You'd be surprised at what you can do with your one self. My husband and I sold our house recently, and I had my old wedding. I've been married a long time. I had my old wedding dress hanging in the closet, and I just Googled, I said, what to do with a wedding dress? I met a woman online who was taking wedding dresses and remaking them into burial gowns for babies in the neonatal unit. How cool is that? I mean, she'd been a nurse, she retired, and I mean, look at what she's doing. One person. She met me, I took this horrible costumey looking dress, which was, nice in its day. I've been married 31 years, so it's old. It was way old. So, I mean, it was nice in its day. But I mean, how cool is that to think about that? And she said, I can make about 5 burial gowns for parents who, I mean, it is a sad thing, but I thought, what a great idea. And she met me, I sent my, dress to her, and it was just wonderful. So one person can do a whole lot of good, and she's starting this business. We're gonna talk some more, but I just thought, what a great idea. So don't think if just because you're one, you can't make it happen. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, so I think there's 2 things that I wanted to say. The first one is kind of what you started with, which is just start. Don't wait. Business plans are so important, I agree. But have your vision and go with it. And if you have an idea for a product, go ahead and start that. Don't come up with a million reasons why you can't do it. Don't wait for the market to change or wait for somebody to get you funding. Just start doing whatever it is that you want to do. And then 2, make sure you know exactly why it is that you're doing what you do. So when you can't find your work-life balance, and when you are working all the time and working hard and doing all that, make sure you know why you're getting out of bed and why you're going to be working 18, 20-hour days, and why you're going to be up at night, and keep that in mind. Write it down, because if you forget it, you want to make sure that you can remind yourself of it when it is tough.
I'm just going to reiterate what they said. Just start. If you are excited about something, it's never been easier. I mean, look at me. I trained as a singer. I did not go to business school. I am learning as I go, but it's so exciting. I mean, the adventure of it is part of the joy of it for me. I mean, it is like so demanding, and there are nights that I don't sleep, but it's also really exciting and fun, even as stressful as it can be. And I want to just say that if you are thinking about doing it, I encourage you to reach out to me. I would love to talk to anybody and everybody about my experience and my journey with it, and feel free to go ahead and do that.
Will everyone thank me and one last time thanking join me in one last time thanking everyone on our panel. It's been an amazing